All right. Hello. Okay. We are going live. It's going to be a live interview with Dr. Robyn Graham. And I'm going to bring her live once I see that she's on here. Um, the replay of this will be up. So you may be catching this on replay later on. Right now, we are going to get totally set up and get Dr. Graham on here with us and talk about anxiety and her new book launch and taking action over anxiety. Okay, it looks like I am live on my personal page. And I'm going to see, we're going to get, let's see, okay. Waiting for Robyn to join live. We decided to make this a really low-key, casual conversation. Oh, it looks like Robyn is on. Hi, Robyn. Okay, I just sent you an invite to join me live. I haven't done this in a while. Let's see. Hopefully the Facebook gods agree with us today and get you on live stream, Robyn. All right, looks like it's adding you. Wonderful. And I'm going to share this into my Facebook group, the Ambitious Female Entrepreneur Society. It is also going to be streaming in there. It does not look like it's shared. Oh, okay. Robyn, it looks like we're still adding you. I cannot share it into my group right now. It told me that they're having a technical issue. So maybe it's because you're joining right now. Hi, Robyn. Can you hear me?
It worked. I think.
Did
it work? We did it.
I think we did it. Okay, I'm going to try to share this into my group a minute. I was trying to share it in a second ago, and it told me Facebook was having technical difficulties.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. I'm messing with this on my computer. So, nope, it is open to the public. Okay, all right. I will have to share it into my group later on then, because I get a note that says something isn't working. This may be because of a technical difficulty. So anybody in my group will see it later on. I will share it over there. And yeah, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I was just looking at my Facebook trying to see if I could put but I can't even find it on on the computer to share it either. So I don't know what's happening. Facebook must be having a glitch.
We don't know, but I'm glad that at least the live is working. So
yeah, let's just roll with it, right?
Yes, we'll make it happen here. Super excited. I want to start right in with just saying congratulations on your book launch today. This is so exciting.
Thank you, Kim. Honestly, I couldn't have done it without you, right? You've been like holding my hand this whole entire journey. So such an honor to have you by my side.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be in partnership with you, growing your business, working on the book launch. Why don't we start out and talk a little bit, share with everybody what even made you want to write this book?
Oh gosh. So, I mean, as you know, Kim, I have a lot of faith, and honestly, I feel like God called me to write this book. You know, life is never easy, and I'm a firm believer that things do not happen to us, they happen for us. And I have struggled with anxiety my entire life since I was a little girl. It started, you know, when I can remember around 6, you know, like vividly have memories from around 6 years of age where I struggled a little bit socially, but I had stomach pains. Nobody could figure out why. And, you know, that continued my entire life all the way into adulthood. And I really didn't get the help I needed because when I was younger, people didn't recognize anxiety for what it is today. And, you know, my parents didn't know, and they did the best. I had a great childhood. I love my family so much, but, you know, we didn't know what we didn't know. And it's just like everything else in life. We don't know what we don't know. And fast forward into adulthood, and my own children started experiencing signs and symptoms of anxiety. And when we got help for my oldest, that is when I really learned the tools, the techniques, the skills to navigate anxiety effectively and what was really going on with me. So many, many, many years later, And way later than should have happened, I actually got the help I needed. And that
Mm.
inspired me. My son's journey inspired me. I discovered that, anxiety is so prevalent. And it's interesting, just since I think the World Health Organization just published some data that the incidence of anxiety and depression has increased 25% over the past 2 years, just because of COVID.
Oh, wow.
And
That's a huge increase.
a huge increase. And the most impacted people are the youth and women. So with that being said, I had started this book. I had dreams and aspirations to write this book several years ago. And as you know, I had a professional photography business, but photography has always been a hobby and passion of mine. And I thought I would create a book that was, photographs of girls that had anxiety, and then do one with boys and show the journey with anxiety, so that kids who could not verbalize what they were feeling and experiencing, a therapist could have that book, show the teens or the patients these books, and they could say, oh, that's exactly how I feel, but I didn't know how to say it, and help have like a visual tool, right, for navigating to help the communication. Well, it was very hard to get people to volunteer to be photographed. I mean, it's a major state of vulnerability. And so it was something that just didn't come to fruition easily. And then I felt that there was just this pull on my heart that I needed to have a bigger impact, and I needed to tell my story. And so I had written maybe the first chapter or two a couple of years ago. And then in 2021, I actually met my publisher, and that was a happenstance meeting. And that just, when I told her about my book and my thoughts and my goals and my dreams with it, she was like, oh my gosh, I would love to help you publish this. And so that really launched me into taking action and making sure that this happened. I had accountability, and I had the opportunity to have someone to support me and help me navigate the ins and outs of publishing, which I had no clue about before. And so the long and the short of it is that that's how it all came to fruition.
I love it. And the importance of hiring the support that you need is something that I want to highlight, because it's something that I think a lot of women, especially women, get really nervous about doing, right? Investing in
Yes.
themselves, saying, I'm worth it, this book is worth it, this message is worth it, finding that publisher. As you mentioned too, you're one of my clients, and we've been coaching together for quite a while now. I would love for you to share your experience, because I used to be somebody that I used to tell people, well, I understand it might be possible, but is it probable, right? Former stats major here. I was always like, but is this probable? And my mindset has shifted wildly over the last 3 years in business, and really understanding how powerful our mindset is. So it is a key component to what I work with my clients on, along with strategies and sales and marketing and all of that. But I would love to hear your take on how the coaching work that we did together, how did that help you bring this book to fruition?
Oh my gosh. Well, so before we started working together, I had a successful business. I was making six figures, and, really hadn't thought much about it, but we connected, and something you said really resonated with me. And it was around your story and how a negative mindset really brought you down, waiting and worrying about the next bad thing that was going to happen instead of focusing on the next positive thing. And I knew that I wanted to transition out of photography and into coaching. And so that was, after we connected for your interview on my podcast, you reached out to me and you said, if you have more questions, and very, very graceful sales tactic, by the way. But anyway, I was like, this is exactly what I need, because I was afraid, and there were so many unknowns, and I knew I had a gift, and I knew I could help other women build businesses from a brand perspective, and really become a personal brand and shine their light into the world, and take those tactical steps that are needed to build a foundation for your business, so you're not backtracking, and all those tools and systems and the geeky kind. And so when we started working together, what really happened, Kim, was my mind shift did shift. But first and foremost, I became vulnerable, and I accepted the things about me and my mind and my life that were not working. And I was able to share them with you and have you help me navigate them and flip that switch. And in the book, I actually mentioned the model that, you know, I have like the model that I use, my 5 C's of journaling method, but I also do an example of the method that you and I have worked so much on with the CTFAR, the CTFAR
Yeah.
method of changing those negative thoughts, those negative perceptions into positive, and how when we do that, we're able to take, number one, we're able to have more positive emotions, which then allows us to take positive action. And that was a big turning point for me. And I think just being able to have you there, to be vulnerable with you, to have you help me change my mindset, change my perspective, really recognize my strengths, I was then able to become even more vulnerable in sharing my story through writing the book.
Oh, I love that. And it's, excuse me, it's so important for anybody that I really thought for a long time that mindset work was woo-woo for people that didn't understand strategy. Like that was literally where my brain was about it. And it is so absolutely not true. If you start looking up things like about neuroscience, right, and how the brain is actually wired, the thoughts that we feed ourselves, we have these thoughts for a very specific reason. We have neural pathways in our brain, and we're very used to thinking these thoughts. So if you look at an example of a child, let's talk in extremes, right? A child who has not a great childhood, not a loving home, and maybe they're even told things like, you're worthless, you're not going to amount to anything. This forms neural pathways in the brain, and our brain gets very used to thinking along those lines. And the neuroplasticity of the brain is the ability that you have to change your brain even as an adult. And when we start focusing on what we're thinking about, hi Jennifer, I see you're on. When we start focusing on what we're actually feeding our brains, what we're actually telling ourselves, for anybody that hasn't done this work yet, what happens is we can't change certain things around us, but we can change what we think about them. So maybe we can't control what other people are doing, or we can't control if a loved one is sick or in an accident or something breaks on the house. We can't control these things are outside of us, but we can control what we think about them. And it is wildly different to think things like, these things always happen to me. Nothing never goes well. Nobody wants to hear from me. I'm not going to amount to be anything. I can't do that. That's for other people. When you feed your brain those things, you are just reinforcing those neural pathways in your brain that continue that flow of thoughts. And it makes us feel discouraged, down, ashamed, fearful, doubtful. There's a whole bunch of negative emotions that we feel. And when we feel those negative emotions, what are we actually doing in our lives? For most people, it looks like things like overeating, over drinking, binge watching Netflix, overworking, not shutting down, not resting, not enjoying life. And for a lot of people, they start spinning out, right? They're overthinking it. They're waking up at night. They can't fall asleep at night. They can't shut their brain down, which then all just feeds into more anxiety. Like some of the anxiety that we feel, we can like lessen it with our thoughts, or we can make it worse with our thoughts. So really diving into that mindset work, I think one of my biggest soapboxes that I like to get on is to like really have, if the whole world could understand, it's not just some woo-woo thing for people that don't have strategies, that it's actual science behind what you're feeding your brain and how your brain is wired. I think that would be like the biggest thing. I think if everybody understood that, they could see the things that they have control over. So thank you for sharing that. I absolutely love it. Tell us about the book, because this is not just one book that you released. Tell us about this. 3 books.
3. So when I originally sat down to write the book, I wanted to write for teen girls. Kind of that manual that I wish someone had given me all those years ago. So I was an anxious teen, I was an introvert, I was intuitive. You put those 3 things together, and I was a little backwards from a social perspective. I was not very self-confident, and so I was constantly trying to do things to get people to like me, or, you know, to stand out or whatever. And I wish I'd known then what I know now. And so this book is kind of a compilation of a memoir and tools to navigate anxiety so that you can have a joyful and purposeful life, but also, discovering your values at an early age to help you navigate your teens and your 20s, creating that list of values that you're unwavering on. You're going to adhere to those. And the more we can adhere to our values and who we are, instead of trying to please the peers around us or trying to grasp that next social high, whatever it is, it's, if you can adhere to your values, you're going to be able to decrease your overall anxiety, living, truly who you are, and you're going to become more confident as well. And, getting curious instead of judging. And that could be someone with anxiety being judgmental with those around you who don't understand you, and people who don't understand anxiety and the people that are different than them, and judging them instead of getting curious and wanting to know more about them. So the book is my journey with anxiety, and then, all of those things that I wished I had had as a little toolbox, when I was a teen. And then as I was writing, I thought, anxiety, you can't navigate it alone. Just like you can't build a successful business alone. You have to have somebody in your corner. And a lot of times what happens, especially when teens have anxiety or children have anxiety, they may have physical symptoms. For me, it was always a stomach ache. Some people, it's restless nights, inability to sleep, lack of focus, headaches. It could be a number of things, but there's nothing physically wrong with the person. But yet these symptoms are truly real. They're felt. And so for parents to recognize, okay, all of a sudden their child is extremely irritable, is demonstrating anger that they've never seen before, and they're not sleeping well at night, their grades are dropping. What is happening? Their child that they knew has kind of disappeared. Where did they go? Well, it could be that they have anxiety. I mean, I can't diagnose a child, obviously,
Right.
but it
Right.
could be that, maybe there's something else that we need to look into. Maybe it's not that they're just a grumpy teen. Maybe there's something more going on, but helping the parent recognize what's happening with their child, identifying those triggers with their child, and then getting the help they need. And not everyone needs therapy. Some people could use my 5 C's of journaling method, and maybe that will help them navigate their anxiety. But there's a lot of scientific data. The mind is so incredibly complex that we actually, a lot of times, most people, if you have a true diagnosis of anxiety, is you need therapy. And sometimes you need medication with that therapy. And a lot of times it takes 6 months to be able to get to a point where you can navigate it effectively and safely. And so as I was writing the book, also differentiating between worry and anxiety. They're two different things. And, really helping parents understand that they're not alone, their child is not alone, and what are the options to help them navigate it. In addition to helping parents navigate shame, as parents, Kim, we take on everything for our children. And there are things that are not our fault and that we should not feel shame about. So navigating shame as a teen that has anxiety and, having behaviors or thinking you're different and feeling ashamed that you're different, and then looking at it from the parent perspective. So each chapter is the same, except for in the parent book, there's a parent section where I dive more into parenting teens with anxiety, because I've had that experience in addition to being a teen with anxiety. And then the third book is the journal. And in the book, I have the whole motto is take action over anxiety. So if we're taking action over anxiety, we are doing things, right? Just like in our businesses, we have to take strategic, intentional action to move the needle forward. We can't just, have a positive mindset and still sit and watch Netflix. Just like if we're not taking action, but if we are taking action and have a negative mindset, we're not taking the right action. So it's the same thing with navigating anxiety. You want to take action, and that action should be intentional. So in the book, I have different activities. So 1, identifying triggers for anxiety. 2, identifying those things that are causing fear for you, and then being able to face those and becoming courageous. And the fear is never going to go away, but if you can find courage, then you can actually take steps to move around that fear and navigate it, and have a strategy when those instances might occur. And then there's an exercise for discovering those people that you truly trust and who you can share your life with, and who you can express yourself with. And so there's numerous exercises like that to help, and
Love
exercise
that.
to discover your values as well. So that's what the journal is for. And then there are blank pages too, so that after you do the exercises, that the activities that are in the book, you can use the journal to practice the 5 C's of the journaling method that I discuss so much in the book.
So good. So good. I want to circle back because something that you said just now, you were talking about, right? Like not everybody needs therapy, but therapy is also amazing. And I love using these platforms because we were in weekly therapy with my middle son from the time he was 2 years and 9 months old. We spent about a year in weekly therapy and we didn't understand like what is going on. Like we've parented one other child and things seemed to be going okay with that child. And then when our second one was born, it was like nothing was the same, and the meltdowns and the fits and the screaming. And I remember telling a friend that we had started therapy, and she was a little bit in tongue in cheek, but she was like, "Oh my God, you're telling people?" Like I thought we couldn't tell people when we go to therapy. And so I was like, no, we should be telling the world. Like I think therapy is amazing. And it can be really helpful when you find the right person. That's my like big caveat, is that you have to find the right
Absolutely.
person. But I
Yes.
feel like too, just normalizing the conversations around getting all the tools and resources that you need or your child needs or your loved one needs. So like buying the books, ordering the journal, getting therapy if therapy is going to help, hiring a coach or a mentor, hiring a publisher, right? Like having all of the support around you that you need to be doing the things that you want to do in your life is so incredibly important. And this gives people just one more guided tool to help them through, help them navigate that anxiety and those things going on. Because my God, if we could all just be open and like share our feelings, I think that right there would reduce a lot of anxiety for people. But we don't live in
Right?
a culture where that's normalized, right? It's not
No, you
always
hide
okay
it.
to do that.
Everybody hides
Yeah.
it. We hide our flaws, we hide our insecurities. And the more we do that, the more shame and anxiety builds within us. It's a vicious cycle. I use everybody will notice the Ferris wheel on the cover of the book. And in the book, the analogy that I use for anxiety is a Ferris wheel. Because if you think about it, you go to the carnival and you get on the Ferris wheel, and it's going slow at first because it's letting more people off, it's letting more people on, and it's like a cycle. But then it starts going faster and faster and faster. Well, what happens with anxiety is those negative thoughts keep coming onto the Ferris wheel. And so every time it goes faster and faster and faster, those negative thoughts just stay there and they keep spinning out of control in your mind. And it's not stopping. Our brain is in a hiccup and it can't stop to let the negative thoughts be released and let positive thoughts come in. So we have to take action to stop that cycle. And being able to catch those thoughts when they come in is what is the most critical thing you can do, to navigate anxiety or navigate a negative mindset. It's recognizing when those thoughts occur, challenging them. Are they real? Are they rational? Are they
Yeah.
unrealistic? Or, would someone else believe these thoughts about me? And chances are no. And then changing those thoughts to the opposite, something positive, something that is more realistic, something that is actually achievable and attainable, versus staying in that rut of the negative thoughts. It's like mud and mire and
Yeah.
rock, And
And I
then
love that you said too, oh, sorry to interrupt you. I love that you said too, like, would somebody else say those about me? Because one of my favorite quotes from the first personal development book I ever read, it was written by Perry Noble, and I cannot remember the name of the book right now. But he said in that book, and it struck me to the core when I first heard this. He said, if you talked to your friends the way you talk to yourself, you wouldn't have any. And I remember driving down the road and just being literally struck by that. Like, my God, it's so true. The things that go through my mind, I would never
no.
say them, but I wouldn't even think them about my friends. Yet we are the meanest to ourselves, right? If we could just see ourselves how like our best friend sees us or our partner sees us, God, it would be wildly different.
Would be wildly different. And then, once we can start catching, challenging, and changing those thoughts, we can have more control over our thoughts, right? We can catch them faster. We can change them faster. And then we become more positive in general, but we also have more confidence. And the more confidence we have in ourselves, the more we're going to have an ability to think positive and take the action that we need to take in our life or our businesses, in our relationships. And it's really being able to then communicate, right? Because if we can't communicate, we can't build relationships. We can't have someone in our corner. And then we become even more down, more isolated. And so it's my hope, my prayer that these books will actually help, start that process of positive thinking earlier versus later for anybody that has anxiety,
Yeah.
but also for people, for teens who don't have anxiety, to help them understand people that do have anxiety. And instead of, thinking, oh, well, that kid's kind of strange, so they can just sit at the lunch table by themselves, bringing them in. Sometimes all it takes is a smile. Sometimes all it takes is having one conversation, asking a question, and that person could become your best friend. Differences shouldn't define a friendship or an ability to have relationships. Sometimes the more different we are, the better it is for us to be able to come together.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I know that these were written for teens and parents, but I just want to say too that like what you're teaching and what you're sharing is so valuable for everybody out there, right? I love that analogy with the Ferris wheel of like when it's filled with the negative thoughts, that's all that's spinning around in your brain, and it goes faster and faster and faster and faster. And this is what stops most people in life from pursuing their dreams, having a tough conversation, whether it's going after a promotion, starting a business, scaling your business, investing in yourself, writing a book, right? All of it, when that Ferris wheel of negativity is what's looping through your mind, that's what you're stuck on. And you need some tool to interrupt that, right? We want to interrupt that, get some of those negative thoughts off of the ride and start bringing those positive thoughts in there. I think that's just I love that visual that I get with the Ferris wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it too because it just makes sense. And another example that I remember reading in, I think it was Tamara Chansky's book, maybe it was Helping Your Child Navigate Anxiety or something. I can't remember the exact title, but she used the example of a train track and how, the train will be going along, but then all of a sudden it hits that bump and it goes off track, it's derailed. And to be able to bring it back on track, to focus on the positive versus, getting off track and just continuing down that negative track instead of being able to go, back on track to positive. So it's like a hiccup in the brain is a simple way of describing anxiety. But the thing that we've been talking about so much, Kim, too, is just mindset. And if you have anxiety, you're going to tend to lean towards a negative mindset. And we already have so many factors being thrown at us, but the brain is such an amazing, complex creation. And we are 80% more likely to have negative thoughts and sit and ponder negative thoughts than we are positive thoughts. So we're already at a disadvantage just naturally, the way the brain works. And, you think about the fight, flight, or freeze and the brain and all of those things. It's like we're already set up to have fear naturally, which is a good emotion to have because it protects us, it keeps us safe. But then you add in all of these environmental factors, and they can escalate all of those negative thoughts, the anxiety, the fear, and all of that. And so it's really important to take the action versus just sitting and letting things, all these negative feelings and emotions compile, because that's what happens if you don't address it, if you don't.
It snowballs so quickly. And so for anybody that hasn't researched this before, when Robyn's talking about like it's the way the brain is wired, so literally our lizard brain is in the lower portion. They call it the lizard brain because lizards have the same portion of the brain, and that is what's wired to be like, oh, I'm in danger. Like that's why a frog hops away, right? Or an animal scurries away when you get too close, because they are wired to know danger and get away from it, right? Fight, flight, freeze. That is the part of the brain that controls that. The problem comes in with that your brain doesn't discern between different types of things that feel dangerous. So your brain doesn't really know the difference between, oh, that's a dark alley and I shouldn't go down there, and oh my God, I'm going to launch my business and this feels really scary. They are both threats to your safety according to your brain. So your brain is going to fire just like you are in physical danger when you go to do something new, Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's getting a promotion. Maybe it's applying for a job. Maybe it's applying for school, right? There's so many different things that we do. Your brain is wired to keep you alive. That's its main job. And anytime you're functioning from back in that lizard brain, you are functioning at such a primal level. And what we want to do is we want to calm down that primal part of the brain and move up into the executive functioning portion of the brain. Your executive functioning happens up here in the brain, and this is where we want to be making decisions from. So I always tell my clients, you've heard me say it before, right? We don't want to make decisions in your life and business based on fear. Fear is going to keep you right where you are right now. And so your book and this tool, I think, is such an amazing way to help people start to navigate, right? What is that fact from fiction? Because when we're in an anxiety spiral, it feels so true. It can physically feel terrifying to do something new because that lower part of the brain is firing and you have a real emotional response to it. But when you can start to move into that frontal lobe, start to move into where the brain accesses its executive functioning and ask yourself, like, is this actually true? Right? So for example, I've even had women still today, I forget about this sometimes, women still today and men can get very nervous about going live. Going live on social media is not a threat to your survival, but it can create such anxiety for people that they literally feel like they are going to die if they go live online, right? And it's not a real threat to the safety. That is an example of when the lower lizard brain is firing and you have a very real emotional response to it. So I love that these tools that you're teaching people, and God, I can't even imagine if I'd had this in my life as a teen, like all of those years, right, that we had to spend just navigating this. But to have those tools to help people discern this fact from fiction, what are my triggers, right? How am I going to get out of that looping of the negativity and into that, oh, okay, I can see how maybe going live on Facebook, I'm not actually going to die by going live. It might be scary, but I'm not going to die.
Yeah. And it when I talk in the book about becoming curious, it really is, it's that, be allowing yourself to make a mistake. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If you make a mistake, you're going to learn from it. If you fail, you're going to pick yourself up, put your big pants on, and you're going to move forward. The thing is, like I said earlier, things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And every single thing that happens that could be a negative experience can be something, an opportunity to then go forth, learn from it, and teach other people and serve other people from that experience. And I would say that anybody who is sitting in a place where you're experiencing a lot of what ifs, and those what ifs are on the negative side of things, that's when you really want to focus on changing those thoughts. If you're sitting there thinking, what if I go live and it messes up? What if I go live and it doesn't work? What if I go live and my hair is out of place? What if I go live and I have a booger?
What if I go live and my eye won't stop tearing, so I have to touch my face during the entire live stream?
Yeah.
It happens,
or my nose or my nose is starting to drip. You know what? We're all human. We're all human. And if people are judging you, they're not your people. If they're people that are willing to get curious and laugh with you and explore the world with you, those are your people. And so it's really important as you think of these what ifs, flip the conversation in your head, that it's not what if something bad happens. It's, well, what if something bad happens, but I'm able to rebound from it right away? Or look at it as, well, what if something bad happens? Well, it's not likely to happen, but this is likely to happen. And this is going to allow me to make an impact. So, what if nobody shows up for your live? Well, that's okay. There will be a replay. They can watch the replay later. And, there's always something positive to come out of every situation, but our brain naturally does not look at it like that. So you have to take that action to then convert those thoughts to.
And it's retraining the brain, right? It's retraining the brain to be able to look at things and be like, oh, I see what my brain is doing to me right now. I see how it's making me feel. And it's just like learning to do anything. It takes practice, right? So it's not like you do it one time and you're like, there, now all anxiety is gone forever. It will never. No, it's a practice. It's like losing weight, right? And you don't just hop on the treadmill once and be like, well, where are my abs? I don't get it. I ran one time. Like, why don't I have abs yet? But so often with the mindset work, people don't they want it to be easier than it is, even though we're talking about literally rewiring your brain and forming new neural pathways. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice, and you have to be dedicated to, like, I can see how this is going to help me in the long run, right? So I can see how I'm going to do this work. I can see how it's improving my life. And of course, my brain is still human, and there's still going to be crappy thoughts that come into it, but it doesn't have to lead to that big spiral. I wanted to say too, I wrote down, you said we are all human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about leaky eyes and runny noses on a live stream. It happens. We are human. We have bodies. They do things. But I love tying that back into, in the beginning of this, you talked too about like that willingness to be vulnerable. And I think that's what so many people, especially when they're doing something that puts them in front of other people, whether it's a live stream, whether it's public speaking, right? People rank public speaking is they're more afraid of public speaking than they are of dying. And a live stream is exactly that. Only you can't always see who's on the other end watching you, right? But I think it's that willingness to be vulnerable and being able to like raise your hand and being like, yeah, I have flaws. I'm not perfect. But it's like we have this preconceived notion that when we look at people, especially online, but even on stages, public speaking, at work, whatever it is, I think we all hold this vision that we think other people are perfect, and therefore we get really scared to be vulnerable ourselves. But
Mm-hmm.
there's literally nobody perfect out there. And I think that that's like the first thought error that has to be dismantled when people are operating under that assumption. So I think even asking yourself, right? Like if you have somebody in your life that you look at on social media, oh, entrepreneurs compare and despair all the time. So and so is further along. So and so made more money. So and so just signed a client, right? It is a real thought that a lot of entrepreneurs have, and being able to pause and be like, oh, right, what was their journey? Because everybody has a journey, and I'm on my journey, and being able to see the value in our own journey. But I think it all comes back to that being open and willing and being able to be vulnerable.
Absolutely. And sometimes we have to put blinders on because there are so many distractions. And if we're already predisposed to being anxious, all of these extra stimulations that we're experiencing on social media or, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, and seeing how perfect, which is never perfect, perfect somebody else's life looks, we have to go back and either step away, give ourselves a screen time break, right? And because if you're on social media and it is bringing you down, it's making you feel worse and not better, then it's time to remove that from your life for a while. And sometimes it just takes a detox, and sometimes it takes being
Yeah.
off for even longer or getting off completely. But if something is bringing you down, whether it's a person, it's social media, the type of work you're doing, whatever that is, you have to take a step back and evaluate, like, is this healthy for me? Because if it is causing you to have negative feelings, negative emotions, and increasing those symptoms of anxiety, then it's time to step away. But you have to make that decision actively, because if you don't make that decision, you're going to spiral. And then it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
harder to figure yourself out of it, because none of this work is easy. It takes time, and it is daily practice. It's not like you do this exercise one time and everything flips, your mind is now positive all the time. No, because, and especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a business, you're going to get to about that 3-month time frame, and all of a sudden you think you've been cruising and you've been taking action and things are going well, and then all of a sudden you see something and boom, you start to spiral. And anytime you let those negative thoughts take over, you're going to feel negative, and then you're not going to take action. And procrastination is one of our worst enemies, right? When we're trying to accomplish something or make our dreams come true. But if we allow those negative thoughts to stay active and don't
Mm-hmm.
intentionally change them, that's what's going to happen.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. The procrastination is such a funny thing too, and I think it looks different at different levels, right? A teenager might be procrastinating on very different things than a parent is, or a working parent, or an entrepreneur, right? Like there's all different, and this is, I never fully understood the new level, new devil phrase. I don't even know who's originally attributed with
I
that,
don't
the new
either, but
level, new
yeah.
devil. It is so true, because I think so often kids think, well, once I'm an adult, everything will be easy because I can do what I want. And then suddenly they become an adult and they're like, oh crap, wait, I'm responsible for everything. Like mom and dad aren't doing it anymore. And even as adults, I think so many people think, well, once I XYZ, it'll be easier, right? Once I get that promotion, once I land that job, once I launch my business, once I hit six figures, once I XYZ, things will be better. And what happens is they get to that level and it's like, oh, I still have the same brain and the same body. So I still have anxieties. I still have worries. Only what you're worrying about or what you're anxious about may be a little bit different. Or what I usually see with my clients and entrepreneurs is the more success they see, it's like they've climbed to this certain level and now the fall is going to be bigger in their minds, right? Like, oh no, now the embarrassment's going to be even more. When I was trying to grow this little thing, it was like, well, if it doesn't work, at least I tried. But now I'm up here, and that fall of grace is the big thing that they start worrying about. So I feel like with your books, right? Like it might not even be a one-time read through, right? It might be multiple times. And then when you're at a different stage of your life or a different stage of your business, different things going on around you, different stage of parenting, right? Even a 13-year-old is very different than what I assume it's going to be like parenting an 18-year-old, right? They're all the teen years, but there's so much growth and development that happens in there. I see these as tools that are like lifelong learning tools for teens and parents.
Absolutely. I was on a podcast interview with Michelle Glogovac a couple weeks ago, and I think it aired today. Her podcast is My Simplified Life. It was a really good conversation, but she had read the advanced reader copy of the book, and she said, you know, this is the handbook. This is a handbook for everybody out there that will guide them from their teen years into their adult years. And I was like, well, that's kind of funny. It is kind of like a handbook because it has the topics are those words, those, you know, philosophies, those thoughts, you know, that we all have a little bit of inner turmoil over. So if we can have a positive outlook and recognize, you know, what does trust mean? What does curiosity mean? What does shame mean? What does anger mean? And, you know, there's nothing wrong with anger. It's an emotion that we all have, but it's what we do with that emotion, right? It's just like, what do we do with negative thoughts? So, you know, but being able to look at life from a new perspective and navigating it from the teen years through adulthood with a little bit more of a positive foundation, a stronger, more solid foundation. You know, in my message in my business is I help women build a personal brand for a strong foundation for long-term success. Well, this is kind of a tool for building a strong foundation for your life success.
Yes. Oh, yes. Preach, Robyn, preach. I love it so much. And even thinking about the ripple effects that happen, right?
Yes.
So often, because I coach female entrepreneurs, so many women are like, oh, I want to do this and I want to like, but is it bad that I want to make all this money? Like they're serving children, right? But when you think about anything that we do, there is some personal satisfaction in it. But when you think about how you're helping other people out there, right? This was a huge personal achievement for you to be able to put your story out there, put the words to paper, write these books, get these tools out there. But then when you think about that ripple effect of maybe even one teenage girl that ends up in such a better place in her life because she had these resources and had these tools. And now the people that she's interacting with, whether she becomes a mother or not, but her friends, her relationships, her coworkers, colleagues, bosses, everybody around her is going to be impacted in a different way because her life moved into this different trajectory. And it's so fun for everybody out there that has a dream of something they want to do. I just want you to really focus on like the people that you would be helping by achieving that dream, because there's a ripple effect. I love thinking about the butterfly effect, right? And how I forget the researcher's name that like a butterfly's wings on one end of the world could cause like a hurricane in the other part of the world, right? There's like scientific research that they've shown that that pattern, that disruption could cause a massive effect somewhere else. And so often I think that's what's happening in our lives. But when we're consumed by anxiety, we're not, so many of us are not taking those actions to cause that massive ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I actually use that. I love the ripple effect because I think that we have so much power to be able to do that, whether it's making more money, whether it is just putting ourselves out into the world and telling our stories. There's always an opportunity to create that effect of more good in the world. And, you know, somebody asked me one time, well, what ROI do you expect to get on the book? And it was funny because at that point in time, I hadn't thought of an ROI on the book. Yes, I hired a publisher. Yes, I did invest in this, but I hadn't thought of an ROI. I wasn't writing this book to get rich. I was writing this book to have an impact, and a positive impact on other people's lives, to transform lives. And when she asked that question, it kind of stopped me, and I said, the only thing I want to do is, if I can prevent one girl, one woman, one young woman from becoming an addict or dying by suicide, I will have done what I'm setting out to do. And all it takes is impacting one other person. I mean, of course, I want millions to read this book, but but all it takes is one person that we impact that could change the course of many people's lives. And that's, I think, what we all need to look at. If we can come into our lives and change it for the positive, then we can change somebody else's.
Yes. Okay, flash the book up again so everybody can see the cover. They're beautiful.
The parent book, teen book, and journal.
Yes. And tell everybody where they can order the books.
So everybody can just go to youmeandanxiety.com, www.youmeandanxiety.com. And actually, Kim, I'm doing a giveaway today. We're going to be giving away a t-shirt. We're going to be giving away a mug and also a print. So if anybody is interested in joining that, go to the You, Me, and Anxiety website and subscribe to our email list. And then we will be doing a drawing from all the people that subscribe to the email list today.
So fun. Okay, flash up the mug again. So everybody can see Robyn has on one of the t-shirts. It's action and then it's line. So action over anxiety. She has amazing swag. She has one of the t-shirts on right now. I love it. I love it. I love it. Is the swag items available to purchase yet or no?
Yeah, they'll be on the website. And actually, it's so funny because I've been like so inundated with all of this launch stuff today. I haven't even looked at the website, but the website designer was supposed to have the shop up today. If it's not up yet, it will be up later in the day.
Wonderful.
But you can access all of it through that website link that I just gave.
So good. So good. I can't wait to get my books. I ordered them today. So excited for them to come. Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this with our communities. The replay will be up. I'm going to add it to my YouTube page so people can watch it forever and ever. Amen.
Awesome.
I love it. Okay.
Tell
everybody where they can find you if they're not already following you. They can see your Facebook link here, but what about over on Instagram?
So I am the Robyn Graham everywhere. It's Robyn with a Y and it's Graham just like the cracker. So ROBYNGRAHAM, the Robyn Graham.com is my business website. And then I'm the Robyn Graham everywhere on social.
Love it. Thank you so much, Robyn. This is so exciting. Congratulations on your book launch. And I will see you soon. And everybody go check out the books. Go to youmeandanxiety.com. I almost said it wrong. youmeandanxiety.com. Connect with Robyn. If we aren't already friends, send me a friend request. I also have a Facebook group for female entrepreneurs. And Robyn and I would both love to connect with all of you. All right.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Kim. Thank you.